will start my screen share. All right, well, welcome guys. Glad to see that we're actually moving this forward for you guys, trying to hopefully get you live here in just over a week now, which is going to be kind of cool. So basically, are you guys able to see my screen, my login screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so basically this is going to be the screen that you guys are going to see. The URL you're using right now, so the sandbox.resolver.com, this is going to be the one that you're going to use strictly for next week while you're doing the training. But once you guys decide, okay, this is the day that we're going to go live, there's going to be a new URL that I'm going to send to Jeff and Pat for the purpose of getting you guys into your production organization. So it'll be, the URL is going to be slightly different, but the look and feel is going to be pretty much identical. So again, you'll get a username or the email address as your username. You guys will have a password. You'll see my password disappeared. We have a thing called single sign-on where it knows who I am based on who I am logged in as the computer. And actually it's going to pop me to another page where I have to sign in through my single sign-on and just validating who I am. And then you guys won't get this window. You will go directly into the organization, the database, the application, whatever you want to call it, in order to just start working the system. There's one other thing I'm going to do so that we don't confuse you too much, and that is, as an administrator, I have the ability to impersonate some people. So I'm going to go, and actually I'm just going to type in, Pat, I'm going to use your test officer.
Oh, good.
So basically you'll see here, there's a bar across the top saying I'm impersonating Pat. That's obviously something you guys aren't going to see. You guys are just going to have the full application with the logo and the home screen. Very similar, you're going to have these icons on the side. I'll walk you through what all of those are. But basically just giving you the quick and easy look and feel, as opposed to the one that I would have is going to be full and probably a little confusing in some places. All right, so to start off with, the top left corner, you've got your University of Miami logo. That's kind of like a home button. If you ever not really sure where to navigate and you want to come back to here, just hit this button, it's going to reload. So if I were to, as an example, to scroll through here and take a look at something, and I'm going around and it's like, you know what, I'm not really 100% sure where I'm at, click on that, it's going to take you right back to the My Tasks window, where you're going to be able to work through and see what it is that you're doing. And my apologies, Pat, I can't use you because I don't think your Pat user set up for dispatching. I forgot about that. So Jeff, I get to be you. Oops. Impersonate. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start with the dispatching side of things. Just to give you a quick look and feel, the use of that is actually going to be pretty close to identical to what you guys are currently doing today, is my understanding. There's not really a whole lot of difference between the perspective dispatching and the core dispatching. The one thing to note is you will see this command center dispatching only if you are an actual dispatcher or Pat and Jeff. Everybody else is going to see one that is called Command Center Activities, where basically you're going to have the same three menu items across the top: the activities, the closed activities, and the lost and found. You just won't have this launch dispatch option. So with the launch dispatch, the big thing to bear in mind is this only works if you're using Internet Explorer or Edge, or if you have a what they call a click once add-on for launching click once applications, which dispatch is. So let's get that over here. So basically, hopefully this looks fairly familiar to you guys for what it is that you're using today. But really, if it is, that's great. The basic use case going through here is identifying at minimum your required fields. So you guys, let's say I've got a 945, you come in here and you click on these. identify what it is that it was, identify a priority, identify the call source if you want. You don't really have to. You'll see it's not a required field. And then the only other required field you have would be here. And so I don't even remember what your location names are. Apparently tower is not one of them. What's one of your locations, Pat?
You can put RMSB.
RMSB.
RMSB. There we go. So you'll see, you'll go through here. Bear in mind this list, what you're seeing here, if you have more than these 6 or 7 RMSB locations, you're going to want to be more detailed about it. So as an example, I'm seeing a first floor, 4th floor. It's interesting. I've got duplication here. I'm going to have to look at that for you guys. But I'm assuming that if you got a 1st floor and a 4th and a 5th, you probably have a 2nd and a 3rd as well. So you may want to go 0, 2 floor, or I saw 2nd floor. And so you'll be able to basically search all buildings that have the 2nd floor. Basically, and again, I'm seeing that I'm not seeing the RSMB here. So you may have to work at what is the naming conventions, and we can definitely adjust those even after the fact if you guys identify that they're not exactly as easily searchable as what you're hoping. We can definitely take a peek at that. And so if you're testing that this week, definitely look at it and identify if you've got any other possibilities. RMSB, that's what I was looking for. Okay, so you identify the location. You basically fill in whatever details you want. You could stop here. You could actually give it some location details, a description, any official notes or initial notes, sorry. The other option you have, which is something that you guys will potentially, totally up to you guys, work on after the go live, are templates. Things where if you type in, say, a 945, it fills in pretty much everything except the location. So we could default a priority, default the call source, default any initial description or notes, kind of whatever you wanted there. The templates make it just really a lot faster for you to be able to go through and deal with that. But you basically create the record. Once you've created the record, you've got your dispatch call. We click and drag one of the officers up to that call. They've now been dispatched. You'll see that if I open this up, I've got the ability to see who it is that is on the call. I can have more than one person on the same call. That's not a problem. But you'll also see if I come down here, if I open up beside the person name, I can see what calls they are on, because I can also dispatch, in this case, Pat, to a 2nd call or a 3rd call or a 4th call if they're in this list. And basically it's just going to put them in the order that I've dispatched him on. I could reorder that if I needed to. But basically, as I clear one, I can put him on the next one. As he clears the next one, he can go to the next one. But I don't have to wait for him to be clear of the first one before putting him on the 2nd one, because it will wait for him. The other option you can do is when you right click, you can say, for example, you'd start him. Once you've started him, I could actually suspend him because now I need him to go someplace else sooner. So suspend this call, move to the next one instead. But then I've arrived him and I've arrived him. So you'll see I've been doing them one at a time, going through per officer. The other option I have is I could right click on the, or left click and right click, because I could do the dispatch officer here. I could clear all, I could clear all here. Oh, I didn't mean to hit that email details. No. Right click, hit clear all. It will clear both of them at the same time. And then once I've done that, I hit close, and I basically am taking this off of my dispatch window. So here you guys get to make a decision as to who is the record owner. By default, it's going to default to the dispatcher. Whoever's logged in as the dispatcher is going to be the default record owner of this record, unless you choose to change it. So if I want Pat to be the record owner, I can change him before I close it. I can add some notes in here if I need to. And then report to follow basically drives what state does the incident exist in when you close it. So when I move this off of dispatch and move it into core, into the activities section, if I want it to remain open so that somebody's working it, I move the report to follow to yes. If I'm okay with it being closed because there was nothing there, nothing else to be documented, I can hit no. So I'm going to move this into a yes and hit close. It should give me, provided this is all working right, should give me a quick little pop-up confirming that it closed successfully. So you should be good to go.
Now.
All right. I'm going to be going pretty quick because we only have an hour and a decent amount to cover. Is there any questions that you guys might have?
How you get audio? I can't hear. I'm up here.
So everybody needs to mute.
Yeah.
Larry, you got to mute. Larry, you need to mute your Zoom. Thank you. I don't think you muted it, but.
I made it on the computer. That's okay. But yeah, any questions so far on the dispatching side of things?
That looks good.
Alan.
That looks good. That looks good.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay, so let's pop that out of here. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so now you'll see, again, I'm in as Jeff. I come and I look at the command center section. I click on the open activities. When I do that, it's going to show me a list of all activities that are currently in an open state. Okay. So as I'm looking at that, I can click on it. You'll see it pops up a little side window. Depending on what you're trying to accomplish, the little side window that pops up is really kind of nice because it allows you to make quick changes on something really small. So I may have to come in here, and in this case, you'll see as a required field, the shift. So I'm going to say that this is an MH or MEDH, but you can adjust that if you need to. It could be whatever you want. If you're only doing really small things, the little side pop-up window is kind of nice because you can scroll through and you can look at everything. It resizes everything to fit this screen. Sometimes it doesn't always look the best. The forms sometimes are built to be full screen. Or if you find that this side window just kind of irritates you and drives you nuts and you don't really like it all that much, all you got to do is click on this little icon here and it will pop it into a full screen for you. So now you can see it as a full screen, use it as you would expect. Okay. So going through here, you'll see the activity owner. Again, if you remember on the dispatch, we made it, or it was Jeff, but we changed it to Pat. So it came across as Pat. We identified the business unit being University of Miami. This will be a default for you. You won't ever have to worry about changing this. And there's really nothing to change it to. The shift is a required field. You'll see that with that little, at the time it was yellow as an exclamation mark. It's turned blue. Just to remind you, it is still a required field, but you have data there. Versus if I were to come in here and remove it, you're actually going to see that it's no longer filled in. It's now red saying, hey, you need to make sure you fill this field in. Slight difference from what you're used to possibly in perspective. In perspective, if a field was not filled in that was required, it wouldn't allow you to save. You'd have to go and fill that field in before you could save it or create it. In core, there's a big difference in that once a record has been initially created, all data that you're adjusting auto saves. So as it stands right now, this record, this activity 2020-0821-A1 is currently sitting in a saved state. It's already been saved, it already exists, and it is saved without this field. So the way core makes it work is the field isn't required on creation or on edit. The field is required before I can transition it anywhere. I can move it to a different state. So I can't close this record and I can't create an incident with this record until I deal with all of the required fields. You guys have very few required fields. You don't have a lot of them. So it shouldn't be all that bad. But yeah, so I went to MED-P, but I'll flip it back to MED-H. Every one of those changes, it's now auto-saved. I don't have to hit a save button. I don't have to hit a done button. I don't have to hit any button. It is already saved. You'll also see the location information. This is a big difference from core or from perspective to core as well, is that the locations, what you're used to as a site list, basically in perspective, you got to choose one. That hierarchy list, you only got to choose one of them. In core, that's not anymore the case. If something started in one location and moved to a new location over the course of the time of that call, you'd actually have the ability to add an additional location to it if you needed to. So this is also part of the reported location. Oh, this is not good. Pat, can you remind me later, we need to remove the create new from this location.
Got it.
So we're gonna add an existing location where again, we're gonna come in here and identify all of my second floors. And here you'll see I am getting all of them. So apparently I was wrong. You guys don't have an RSMB or RMBS, whatever it is, second floor. So once you find the one that you're interested in, you'll also see the search. It doesn't matter where in the hierarchy it exists. As you type it, it's going to do a text search anywhere in here. So once you find the one, I want to make this one, say for example, this location, I hit add, I hit close, and I hit create. Once I've hit create, you'll see it pops it in here, and now I can see two different reported locations. Here's the information about those, all of that. So I've got all that information here. And again, I could add 40 of them if you found a need to. I would assume the vast majority of yours are going to be one, but you could definitely add as many as you need to. All right. Depending on the type of call that it is, so sorry, right here, the activity type 945, depending on the type of call it is, I sometimes will give you a message pop up here to say, hey, don't forget you need to do this. Basically what this is Pat and Jeff wanted a requirement for you to fill in an involved person, but only in particular cases, and I can't do the only in particular cases. I can only do 100% of the time you must have a person, or 100% of the time you must have an item or something. And that wasn't always the case. So what we did was, rather than make it a requirement, I just pop up a window here that says, hey, make sure you do this. As an example, if I get rid of this activity type, you'll see that window disappears. If I add in a 901, it doesn't pop up anymore. That wasn't necessarily a requirement for these guys. Doesn't mean that you can't add people if you want to, but it just means that it isn't really a requirement per se anymore. So now you'll see these sub-tabs. So the general, the responses, the work orders, involvements, and so on. As you click them again, you'll see the page changes a little bit. The intent basically is that you're going to go through any of these tabs, same as what you would have with perspective. Anything that's relevant, fill it in. So I've got a description that I want to fill in. I've got an offense type. The priority came across, but I could change that if I want. My reported, assigned, cleared. Haven't actually officially closed this yet. That's actually kind of interesting. I'm gonna have to double check that, Pat, because I thought the close would have come when I actually closed the record, but it might not have. So we'll
Yeah, so you have the same option when you do the incident.
Okay. The initiated, if you filled in the initiated by in dispatching, that would come across. Who took the call, who dispatched the call, that all comes across. You'll also see a section on the right-hand side, depending again on the activity type. So for a 901 or a 902, you're going to get these other fields that pop up. Is it aggravated? Is it a weapon involved? Is there an injury, call source, anything along those lines? But if I change that from a 901 to, I think, oops, what's one of your other ones? A 911, I think, has different stuff. Nope, apparently I'm wrong. 903, I know, has different ones. A 903, you're going to see that this section pops up for a 903, a 904, or a 905, or a 906, or a 908 or a 909. So if you pick a 907, this section won't pop up. But basically, again, there's just additional questions we're trying to ask to get you to fill in. So really, the intent of core is if you see it, you should at least consider every piece of it and answer it if it's relevant. There may be things where it's not relevant, Or as an example, no, there was no penetration and other. You'll see here with my weapon involved, or sorry, I went other. Okay, please describe. Here's my description. If I didn't fill in other, this please describe wouldn't have shown up. If I said, yes, there's a weapon involved, I actually get 2 more fields that pop up to identify the type of weapon. Sorry, 1 more field, but if I hit other, then it'll pop up another please describe. So weapon description. The other thing you may see on the right-hand side as I type, these little ellipses that are showing up, that's actually the autosave in play. So you'll actually see immediately things are saving for you. And again, same with injury. If I say yes, I get 2 more fields that pop up, the severity and the type of injury. And again, if you're seeing the field, the intent is you're filling it in, okay? So you go through here, you fill in whatever information is relevant for you. I would say before you get to the locations, come back up, click on your next tab, determine were there any responses that you needed to worry about, were there any requests that you needed to worry about. We've also given you a couple of hyperlinks here. So if I were to right click this and open in a new tab, it's actually going to take me to that page where you can now continue working it, but you'll still have this open. I right clicked because if I don't, oh, sorry, some of the hyperlinks do it, some of them don't, obviously. My apologies. I was scared that it was actually going to take me off of the core and move me to the page I linked. I do know it does that sometimes, so I'm kind of surprised that happened. But if you're ever worried about that, the other thing is as you go through and say I clicked on here accidentally, it was like, oh, what am I doing? I want to go back. Because it's a web page, just go back. It'll take you right back to where you were, the same incident that you were on. Only thing it wouldn't do is if I had a window open, that window won't open anymore. It won't be still open. It'll just bring me back to the main incident and I can continue working. Okay. So again, your work order requests, your involvement. So here's where you have your persons, orgs, vehicles, and items. Go in and add involved people, involved orgs as you want. Big thing to note here, which again is really no different than perspective was, again, fill in the information that you see, but it really is important on, say, for example, your person records, search for somebody that might already exist first. Gabe is my guy. I'm concerned about him. You'll see for you guys, I've put the your call signs. I know that isn't what you call them. My apologies, but the numbers that you guys identify as, if you know them, feel free to just search on them. So there's Philip. Bear in mind, I already know about this duplication. I'm going to deal with that for you guys in prod. There won't be a duplicate like this, but go ahead and hit add. Close that. You'll see that it links in Philip and identify that he's an employee. The involved person name will actually auto create if you want, but you can type this in. Philip Kelly. If I had any pictures, see if I've actually got any handy. Documents, pictures. Bear in mind, these don't work with bitmaps anymore, the BMPs. They only work with JPEG, PNG. Not even sure GIF works properly. Let's take a look at my ugly mug. So you'll click and drag it in there, and it'll pop up and show you. Your other option is you could click on the window and it would open up a browser window where you could select your picture. And then hit create. So I've hit create. Now it'll pop in Philip as an involved person. And again, I can add as many of these as I need. There's no real adjustment there needed, whether it's 1 or 40 or none. You may not have any vehicles or items involved. But the concept of what you're doing here is no different than what you're used to in perspective. I know I'm going quick, but so far things making sense, pretty clear.
Definitely, yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good to hear. Okay, next over is attachments. A little bit different here in that when you're creating attachments, there's one big difference compared to Perspective, and that is, and I don't know what you guys were when you're on-prem, but technically speaking, Perspective allowed a 2 GB attachment. We don't allow 2 GB attachments in Core. The maximum size of a single attachment allowed is 100 megabytes, okay? So if you want to do video or anything like that, and usually video is the only thing that's going to get that big, you may need to chunk it up into smaller video clips so that you could add 20 megabyte attachments if you wanted to. So your overall total attachment can definitely go over 100 meg, but any one file that you're attaching can only be 100 meg, okay, or less. Okay, so the attachment name, the attachment type, you got a bunch of stuff in here, no real big deal there. The biggest thing to note is, am I adding a photo that I want to see immediately, or am I adding an attachment where I'm just going to see the name, such as a Word document or something along those lines? So again, if I were to click and drag something into the picture, then I'm going to see the result of that. But if I click and drag that same file into my attachment, all I am going to get is the name, at which point I'd have to click on it, it would download, and I could open it, okay? Technically speaking, this attachment area, if you choose, can have more than one file assigned to it. You could absolutely attach 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 different, and I could actually do, let's do these 3. I could actually do 3 files and click and drag all 3 files in at the same time. That's not a problem. All that does, though, is it means I'm not able to, oh, apparently I clicked on a few more than 3. All that means, though, is, again, you're not going to see the results unless you click on them. It will download, and then you'll be able to open them. Is that all making sense?
And then the thumbnail, you only get 1, right?
Yeah, correct. The thumbnail where I can actually see the result, I only get 1 per record. So, and when I say per record, let me just get rid of all of these because I don't really need all of those, and you guys don't want to see pictures of my family. All that means is this one attachment record only gets 1 thumbnail. So if I hit create, it'll create it over here. It should create it over. Oh, I just did something bad. Guys, we need to make sure we put in an attachment type. There's a bug. So what we should do is, if you're going to create an attachment, we should make attachment type a required field.
Yes, it has to be a picture for it to show. It can't be the other options. I tried them out yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually basically what he's saying is, if I were to say replace image, if I were to try and put a PDF in here, it's not going to do anything. It's going to fail. But I want to remove the image. Oh yeah, there we go. Missing key. This file type is not accepted. So I'm going to click and drag that back in here. But yeah, no, my apologies. If I if I miss putting the attachment type or the attachment name, pick of suspect, hit create. If I miss those, if I miss both of those, it won't put the line item in here. It just won't leave it blank. So I need to, we just need to make sure that we put the attachment type as a required field. Okay, so what I was saying before being, when I click on this, I can see the picture, but I only get 1 picture. All that means is that I might have to click a new one and bring in a different picture. I think this one will work. And now I can see, oops, I can see that one as well. Okay. The other difference is that not only do you have the ability to attach a document, but if I click here, I can actually type in Resolver home page, www.resolver.com, add the link, hit create, and now I did it again. Oh, Dale. Sorry, Resolver home page. This is a link. Oh, you guys don't have a link. Do that again. Resolver, www.resolver. add link, hit create, and now it'll show up in here. I click on it. I've got that available here. Okay, so I can hit yes. This is one where I'm actually now going to leave Core and go to this page. Or I can right click or I can copy it and then just paste it in there, whatever you want to do. If you go to it, that's not a problem. Remember, as I said, you can just hit your back arrow. It'll bring you back here anyway. Okay. And then the notes that you may have had in the activity on that right-hand bar, or usually it's on the right-hand side for activity notes. If you had any of those, it'll pop into here automatically for you. We then have the ability to have the tasks, which is basically what you guys might be already used to with assignments in Perspective. It's the same basic idea, giving it a name, giving it a task type. So need Pat's help with interview. This is going to be an interview task type. I'm going to assign it to Pat. I'm going to give it a priority. I need him to finish it by, let's say, next Friday. I don't need an attachment. If I did, though, I could hit yes, it requires an attachment for completion. Either one, hit create. So now this, if I'm not mistaken, Pat should have already sent you or in process of sending you an email. The other difference being is if I were to, actually, let me do one more because I'm actually going to assign myself. I'm going to test this. We're going to assign it to Jeff. Give it a medium, give it a due date, hit create. So now, remember how I said that whole My Tasks window, things that are, I very briefly went over it, but things that are assigned to you, they now show up on your My Tasks window. And that isn't just assignments like you're used to in Perspective. This is going to be an incident or an activity or an incident that is in an open state where you're the owner, should show up in your list. Any incident or activity where you're the supervisor and it's been moved to the supervisor review will now show up in this My Tasks list. So really the intent of this whole My Tasks is the ability for you to see at a glance anything that's been assigned to you that you should be actioning in some way. And those actions can be various, many different things that you might need to do. But either way, you've got a list of things that have been directly assigned to you or to your group. As an example, your supervisors, as an example at the towers, I know that we put 4 people from your towers into a single group. So when the officers are assigning the incident for review, they can not just assign it to an individual person, they can assign it to the overall group. And I'll show you guys that in a bit. But basically it gives you the ability to assign it to 4 people all at the same time. All 4 people will show up on their My Tasks list, and then really the first person to grab it gets it.
And Dale, just to confirm, I did get that email notification that I had a task pending.
Awesome. And then the other thing that we'll do is, because this task is pending to August 21st, tonight, if I don't close this today, tonight, this is going to flip to an overdue state and send you another email. Okay. So that's actually one thing, Pat, you're probably going to want to do is go to your task and complete it. So here's my completion notes and hit complete, at which point I go back to my tasks. It's closed. I don't need to worry about it anymore. Okay. So Pat, you're probably going to want to close that. Otherwise it's going to harass you every day starting next Friday.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so I've got this. I worked through it. I know, again, that was really quick, but generally speaking, is it making sense to you guys so far?
Yeah.
Yes.
I haven't gotten the
Awesome.
photos
Gotcha.
when you attaching the photo.
Okay. So basically all you're doing, let's go back up to my attachments. When you hit create new, you get the option of doing either a picture directly. And if I clicked on this, it's just going to pop up the window saying, okay, what picture do you want to bring in. So if I were to look at where'd my documents go, my documents, my pictures, and I've got this one of me here, right? It'll just pop that picture in if
Okay.
it's the right file type. That one's pretty straightforward. The difference being this only allows one. The attachment box, I
Okay.
could click and drag 5 photos into there, but I won't actually see them. I'll only see that they exist. I'd have to click on them to download them, at which point they would open. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I got it.
And then this attachment area is also where you would put a PDF, a Word document, an Excel spreadsheet, whatever. Anything that isn't a picture, everything else goes under the attachment section. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Okay. Last thing to do with an incident really at this point is the ability to escalate it into the last thing with an activity is to escalate it into an incident. So I basically hit this button. You're going to see, as long as I've done all of the required fields, it says moved to escalated to incident. And it also closed it, which could be a bit of a pain in the butt. And so what you're going to want to do is you really don't want to hit that button until you're ready to, in essence, be done. You've finished detailing the activity information, because now you'll see creation successful, new object created. Click on that little ellipses and it's actually going to show you the incident that got created, and you can click on it and it'll take you directly there. If you miss doing that, your other option is come to the incident management, click on active incident reports, at which point it's going to load the report. And now here's a list of all of the active incident reports, which, if I'm not mistaken, includes, was it this one? No, there's this one. No. That's interesting.
So it might need to be refreshed.
Yeah, possibility. Jeff, are you in this? Were you playing with this at all? That's interesting. Okay, that's going to be an investigation piece, guys. We got to figure out where that record went. What was the incident number again? I hit back. 21168. Let's take one more quick look.
All I'm in is the UAT ticket, so if something comes up, I can quickly add a
168.
ticket.
That's interesting. Okay, yeah. Let me investigate that, because that incident absolutely should be in this list. So I'll have to figure out why it's not.
Yeah, it didn't show up for me either.
Oh, that's why.
You didn't do the required field? Yeah.
No, the business unit didn't pass. That's weird. Miami. There we go. So now if I were to come in here, take a look at the incident management. Okay, so that's definitely a bug. Jeff, if I can get you to raise the bug that when we transferred from activity to incident, the business unit didn't transfer. And there's my 168. So this is the one that I was expecting to see. So I will have to definitely fix that for you guys today. Otherwise, that's really going to mess you guys up. But you'll see here, there's definitely, again, more fields that need to get dealt with. Incident start time, incident end time. Any of the data on the side here, you'll see it does carry through. It does pass that data in. It's mainly that these fields don't exist on an activity. So we just need you to fill those in when you're going through. So again, any of these could be not applicable, or they could be applicable, whatever it is that you want to identify there. As you're scrolling through here, you'll also see that I've got 2 locations, a person, 5 attachments. Did it? Oh, this one allowed. So this one is actually set up slightly different. So I think, Pat or Jeff, why don't we make another UAT ticket to adjust the activity attachments table to match the incident attachment table. That way they look the same.
Hold on one second.
And guys, if you haven't caught it, that's part of why we do UAT, this user acceptance testing, and why we want you guys in there is because you're going to see things based on how you use the program that I'm not necessarily going to catch, but I'm also obviously catching some things related to just basics of how things should be set up and working. I'm going to be finding some things and dealing with those for you as well. But basically anything that you guys find and you're not thrilled with, you're not a fan of, it isn't working at all, or it's not working exactly the way you were kind of hoping it might, double check with Pat and Jeff, let them know what your issues are and they can log it into our tickets. Okay.
I've got a question.
Sure.
Would you be able to look up, like, on the O perspective, you can look up all 932s, 945s.
Absolutely.
Are you able to do that?
Yeah,
This-
absolutely. So that would be in your reports. And basically in your incident list report, we include the primary incident type, which, oh, I got to fix this report for you guys. This shouldn't be a primary incident. This should be a primary activity. But it would list your activity types, at which point I would also give you a filter allowing you to filter by those. And then you'd see the entire list of them. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You betcha.
Well, Dale, what was that other ticket you want me to create?
I need to change the incident list report.
Hold on. Change. Is it review report?
Yep. We need to change all the incident reports to pull the activity type, not the incident type.
I'm sorry. Report all incident reports to what?
Report activity type, not incident type. So I don't know if you guys noticed that, but that's actually one big difference from what Perspective and Core Core did, is I was able to actually transfer the activity type across as well. So you guys aren't going to have to reclassify it again when you move it into the incident. Okay. So you'll have that available for you. Other than that, the rest of this again is going to be pretty much all identical. You've got your narratives here where you can create your narrative. Only difference here is you've also got the ability to identify or attach a narrative. So say, for example, you didn't necessarily want to have to whatever the narrative in here. You could actually type it up in, say, a Word document or something along those lines, or somebody sent you a scanned version of a witness statement. You could retype the witness statement in here, but you could also attach the witness statement directly here so that they're all staying together, right? So you'd have that as an option for you.
So that is also, can you attach like an email?
Absolutely, 100%. You've got your tasks action plan again, which is basically your assignments, works exactly the same way. Although you'll see that the assignments don't come across. The assignment to the activity is not one and the same as the assignment to the incident. Each one can have their own unique assignments. Record security and audit, there's really not a whole lot here for you guys. It's still potentially available. You could add your supervisor here, but really what we've done is we've given you the ability to do it without having to open this up, this record security open up. So here is where I could do a Med-H and go directly to either any of the 4 people that are in Med-H, or sorry, that have this in their description somewhere, or the way Pat has said it is you probably want to go directly to any group that starts with S to the appropriate shift. Once I've done that, now anybody that is listed as a supervisor belonging to the group of Med-H will get a notification on that My Task saying you have a record that is, in this case now, ready for supervisor review. Is that making sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Yes. So that is like raising it from a level 2 to a level 3. Now you just sending it to a supervisor.
Exactly. So that's the one thing that we don't do anymore. The access levels, we don't have those. What we've done is we've dealt with those through this supervisory state. So again, Jeff being the manager is going to see all levels. But if I was one of the officers, Now that this has been moved on to the supervisory review, you wouldn't have access to those incidents anymore. Okay. All right. Any questions about the activity or the incident? And again, I know I've gone through them really fast, but we're actually down to about 10 minutes. But the concept of them really shouldn't be all that different from what you're used to today.
Right.
We're good?
It looks kind of simple.
Awesome. That's what I love to hear. And that's really the whole point of Core, is that it seems to flow better than what Perspective did. Now, there's a couple of things you may have seen me do that is definitely different. So as an example, if I were to come to this record here, and it's already got all my required fields, it's already on MedH, so I hit ready for supervisor review, you'll see that that record still looks like it stayed open. That's because this is a report, and all reports have a last time run, and it holds on to the cache of that report for 20 minutes. So if you come to a report like this and you're not convinced it's showing you everything like you think it should, just hit this button here. And what it's going to do is reload the report, and you'll then see I now have 2 of them that are in supervisor review. Okay. If I leave the program and come back, it will then update automatically. If I leave the report and I come back to the report 20 minutes later, it'll automatically update. It's just if you leave the report and come back within the 20 minutes that it listed here, then you're possibly not seeing all the latest data. So just hit this button and it'll open it up for you. And again, from here, I now have the ability to take a look at all of my, I want to see everything related to MedH. I don't want to, oh, apparently that is all of them. Apparently MedH is a popular place. So let's change that. I want to see everything that was yesterday and today kind of thing. So now instead of 6 records, should be filtered down to 1. So the records that I had in here don't have data after 8 o'clock or 8:40 in the morning, something like that. Yeah, so that was 7:20, 6:30. Yeah, so all of those were either yesterday before 8:40 or previous. Or the other option we have is, instead of going from this date forward, I can say, show me everything from yesterday back. And now instead of 6, I should only get 5. Yep. Okay. So your filters are going to be available on any report, or they should be available on any report. And then once I get rid of all of I hit apply filter again, at which point it's just going to reload all of the data again. So I'm back to 6. From here, I could click on it and it will sort. So if I wanted to see everything based on owner, I could do that. And if I need to, I could actually click on the Excel page, at which point it will take this data and eventually populate it into an Excel sheet, and the Excel sheet should pop up here when it's finished. But then you'd be able to take this data, and if you like Excel and you use pivot tables or charts or something like that, you'd have the ability to just see all that data directly in here. There's your data. You've even got the coloring that follows across. Bearing in mind that when you go to Excel, only tables follow. If there is a report, which we do have some reports, say for example, an incident summary report, if I were to look at that incident summary report, there's charts. These charts will not come across in Excel. The charts don't work in Excel. Only the raw data tables work in Excel. Okay. All right.
What about another officer adding supplemental to
absolutely. So
primary officer's report?
Yep, absolutely. So basically, any officer has the ability to see all other open officer incidents. As long as it's in the open state, you guys can see it. As long as it's in a supervisory state, then the supervisors can see it, and the managers, and everybody above can see them. But as soon as we move to the supervisory state, then the officers don't get to see it anymore. Similar to like you guys used to do where you'd move it up to an access level 2 or 3, whatever that was. But because they could see it, they could also click on it, at which point all they've got to do is come down to the narrative section and add their supplemental.
Okay.
So you've got your, I think we actually called one supplemental, and identify the date and time you did it. Again, this will actually auto-populate. The narrative owner and the date and time will auto-populate. So I type in my narrative, I hit create, and now that narrative exists in here. And you'll see when I do, because I was Jeff Locke, it automatically populated Jeff in here for you. You don't even have to worry about that. You can put it in, but it will add whoever it is that hit this create button. It will automatically add them to that narrative owner. And then you'll also see these narrative boxes do have a 20,000 character limit. I would hope most of your narratives, individual narratives, don't go that big, but you are limited to that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, we got 5 more minutes. One last thing I want to show you, and that is the ability to search for person. So I want to find Patricio. I hit enter. I don't know where I might find him, but he is somewhere involved in these 2 activities. There's 3 people with that first name. So here's the 2 that I'm kind of interested in. There's at least 5 involved persons. Bear in mind, this list is just a quick look. It may be more than that. And to know that, I click on go to detailed results, and it's now going to show me every involvement of Patricio that is here. Now, this is one big thing for you guys to note is when we migrated your data from Perspective into Core, we didn't migrate everything. What you're not actually going to see most of your incidents. You're going to see some of your lost and found. You're going to see some of your thefts that have occurred this year. But anything previous to this year, you're not going to be able to find them in Core. We made a decision working with Jeff and Pat to limit the amount of data that's going to come across. But what we did was we brought across all involved people for the last 5 years. And if they were involved in an incident, we identified the incident number for you. And you guys are still going to have access to Perspective if you need to go and look it up. So we've given you what the incident number is, so you know what incident to go and look at and identify, okay, what is it that Pat has done. Now, the other thing that you could do is if you look at Pat linked person record, that linked person record will also have a related data and show me his entire history. So I've got 2 pages, 20 rows total, where I can see he was a complainant, he was a witness, he was a suspect, and it gives me all of those incident numbers so that if I need to go back into Perspective and look for it, I've still got that capability. Is that making sense to everybody?
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, guys. So as I had mentioned, we're now in a UAT period. The goal is that as early as possible, we basically need to make a go, no go type of decision for go live by around Tuesday, Wednesday. So as much as you can play today, as much as you can play on Monday, Tuesday, over the weekend, if you're working the weekend, get in here and play. Anything that you find, let Pat or Jeff know. They can let me know. My goal is that I have the entire system working as expected by Wednesday. If there's something missed that happens after that, doesn't mean that we're shut down. It just might mean that you're going to live with it for the period of the go live transition. And then as soon as you've gone live and we've moved you over, then there's still going to be a gentleman available named Gabe that has the ability to make some adjustments for you. And then Pat and Jeff, you've always got our support team available to help you out if there's something else that pops up 5 months down the road, something like that. All right. Yeah.
And so where would we go? To sandboxresolver.com?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you go to Sandbox, so actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn off impersonation and I'm going to log out. So pretty much all of you should have direct access to this, but you may not have set up a password yet. If that is the case, all you need to do is come here, hit change password, type in your email address, hit request password reset. It will send you an email that will have a link where you can set a password, and then you can come and log in. Big thing to bear in mind on that is the system is set up to prevent spamming. So if you say, for example, you hit the button and it ended up in your junk mail and you didn't see it, you could come back here and request it again, but it won't send for it won't allow you to send a second one for 5 minutes. It'll only allow you to hit this button once every 5 minutes. You could come here and spam it and hit it every 2 seconds if you wanted, but it's only going to send the one email until you get to the 5 minutes, and then if you hit the button again, it'll send the email again. So if you do hit this button and request the password reset, if you're not seeing it right away, because it should show up within like 10-15 seconds. If you're not seeing it right away, double check your spam folder, your junk folder, anything along those lines, and see if it did come across. Okay.
And what I'll do is I'll send everybody the link to the sandbox.
Sounds good.
Oh, okay.
Sounds good.
All right.
And what I
All
need
right.
everybody to do is everybody that's here on this Zoom meeting to send me an email that you attended the Zoom hearing today, the Zoom meeting today.
Okay.
Okay. Well, guys, we are at our time, and I hate to say this, but I do actually have to jump off. I've got another call that I'm supposed to be on. So I will
Okay.
say thank you very much. I'm going to stop the recording.